The choir is back from our residency in St. Mary's Cathedral in Edinburgh and Durham Cathedral. We've had a wonderful time and very much want to express our gratitude to the entire cathedral community, to the congregation, the staff, and certainly to Chris and Tom for all of the leadership and support that they gave us while we were traveling. And we are happy to be back, even though it's a little bit hotter here than it was in northern England. But we are so happy to be back and worshiping with you again with our home congregation. And fittingly for a summer Sunday, we have some very familiar music, kind of comfort food sort of music all through the service that nevertheless relates to the readings and the prayers that we have set for us by the lectionary. We'll be coming in with a very rousing hymn, God of Grace and God of Glory, on thy people pour thy power, with this Welsh tune, Cwm Rhondda. So typical of many of these Welsh tunes, it has kind of a folk-like rustic quality to it. It actually was composed by a known composer, John Hughes, who was writing in the mid to late 19th century. But it has that very ebullient character that is so common with these Welsh hymns. Many of these Welsh hymns, again, were intended to be sung a cappella. This was written specifically for a singing festival in Wales, and it's been very popular with choirs and congregations ever since its composition. Interestingly, this text, God of Grace and God of Glory, was written by one of the most prominent 20th century preachers, Henry Fosdick. And Henry Fosdick wrote these words and had in mind Regent Square, a very different tune, in mind when he wrote these words. And we have plenty of evidence from his own writings that he was not happy with the pairing of his words with this Welsh tune. He much preferred Regent Square. Unfortunately for him, the marriage has stuck and is one of the most enduring of all of the hymn and text pairings that we have in the hymnal. At the sequence, in between the reading and the gospel, we'll be singing, Father, we thank thee who hast planted thy holy name within our hearts. And this is a very important text for the church tradition. This was an early Greek hymn, or more specifically, it was this hymn is made up with some fragments of a couple of different hymns or prayers from the early Greek tradition, right back in the late first or the very beginning of the second century. So this is really kind of the very beginnings of our Christian tradition and certainly of the church as it expressed faith and hope and theology through poetry. It's paired in our hymnal with this tune that comes from the psalm singing tradition of Northern Europe. And while the melody itself predates, it was really set in its present form by the composer Louis Bourgeois. And again, this was a tune that was really envisioned to be what you would sing a psalm to, specifically Psalm 118. But it has that lyrical and very kind of almost conversational pacing to it. That tune, partly because it's so easy to sing, is in the hymnal a number of times. It's in 3 times, and it's each time harmonized a little bit differently. But this harmonization is the oldest of the 3, and it is the setting that Louis Bourgeois composed for that singing of Psalm 118. At the offertory, the choir, newly juiced up from our travels and refreshed and ready to go, will be singing, of course, one of the most popular pieces in our repertoire, Draw Us in the Spirit's Tether, at the offertory. And then at communion, they'll be singing a setting of God Be in My Head. We have several settings, musical settings of this text. This one is by Henry Walford Davies, and it has this very beautiful, placid, prayer-like music. Henry Walford Alfred Davies, a very important figure in English music in the 20th century. He was the first musical advisor to the BBC. He also was the director of music for St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle, and after the death of Edward Elgar became the master of the King's music. He was sort of the authority on all British music making for a short time before his untimely death in the early 1940s. But this setting was written slightly before his time at St. George's Windsor Chapel, but it has a really beautiful way of expressing the faith that is embodied in these words, God be in my head and in my understanding. So we hope that as you are kind of moving through the end of the summer, as we're looking on towards fall, if you gather to worship with us either here downtown or using cable channel or our YouTube channel, that you will have some of these very comfortable pieces of music and prayer to be a part of your worship with us here at St. John's Cathedral.